Alan Watts, the British philosopher who decided one day to pack his bags, jump across the pond and introduce the West to Eastern philosophy, in a sense acting as a metaphysical Marco Polo, and had a good chuckle while doing it. Watts turned our whole conception of life on its head by suggesting, hey, maybe it's not all about the destination but the journey instead, to enjoy our lives, not just incessantly worrying about where we are headed. And when it comes to God and religion, Watts' perspective is not just some celestial senior citizen lounging on a cumulus. No sir, instead he proposed a divine force that we are all intricately threaded into. He said, and I quote, "You didn't come into this world, you came out of it, like a wave from the ocean. You are not a stranger here." A little hard to swallow when you're used to being the center of your own story. Next, he took a sledgehammer to the concept of self. To him, the idea of self was as real as unicorns or your ability to quit coffee. It just doesn't exist. According to Watts, this illusion of self was just the source of unnecessary suffering. Adding to that, Watts pointed out that we are too often absent from the present moment, too busy replaying the past or fretting about the future, like missing a good movie because we're too busy looking at the popcorn. He wanted us to live in the now, which when you think about it is the only moment we truly have. In this video, we are going to explore some of his wisdom on life. So let's take some leaves from Watts' books. Welcome to BlackRock Inspired. The only way to make sense out of change is to plunge into it, move with it, and join the dance. Muddy water is best cleared by leaving it alone. To have faith is to trust yourself to the water. When you swim, you don't grab hold of the water, because if you do, you will sink and drown. Instead, you relax and float. You're an aperture through which the universe is looking at and exploring itself. The meaning of life is just to be alive. It's so plain and so obvious and so simple, and yet everybody rushes around in a great panic as if it were necessary to achieve something beyond themselves. Man suffers only because he takes seriously what the gods made for fun. We seldom realize, for example, that our most private thoughts and emotions are not actually our own, for we think in terms of languages and images which we did not invent, but which were given to us by our society. Problems that remain persistently insoluble should always be suspected as questions asked in the wrong way. You don't look out there for God, something in the sky. You look in you. Trying to define yourself is like trying to bite your own teeth. Life exists only at this very moment, and in this moment, it is infinite and eternal, for the present moment is infinitely small. Before we can measure it, it has gone, and yet it exists forever. Just as the apple tree apples, the universe peoples. The menu is not the meal. The more a thing tends to be permanent, the more it tends to be lifeless. There will always be suffering, but we must not suffer over the suffering. This is the real secret of life, to be completely engaged with what you are doing in the here and now, and instead of calling it work, realize it is play. The only Zen you find on the tops of mountains is the Zen you bring up there. When we attempt to exercise power or control over someone else, we cannot avoid giving that person the very same power or control over us. Without birth and death, and without the perpetual transmutation of all forms of life, the world would be static, rhythmless, undancing, mummified. You are under no obligation to be the same person you were 5 minutes ago. I hope you found the words of Alan Watts inspiring. Support us by liking our channel and subscribing. Fun fact, it's free. Thanks for watching.